Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Infinite Potential of Being Human podcast. My name is Nicky Clinch, and I am your host. And welcome back to season 2. My teacher has said to me, Dr. David Norris, he has once said to me that he wishes that we could lead whole programs with just breaks, because the biggest shifts always seem to happen in the lunch breaks. That whenever we give our participants longer breaks, it's during that space and time that huge shifts seem to happen. Meaning, the more space that there is, the deeper that we can let it in. The shifts and the lessons that we're having, which of course is so counterintuitive and against the way that we've been conditioned in society. Society teaches us that in order to have change and in order to have growth and in order to have some kind of result, we need to do more. And of course, if we haven't shifted the context from where we're coming from and who we're being, then that there isn't enough doing to fundamentally shift the unfolding of your 3D world. So the big shifts happen when those deep internal shifts in perception of who you are and consciousness of who you are and states of consciousness with your relationship with who you are in the world, when those deep internal shifts happen, and then we allow enough space so that those shifts have time to integrate, meaning to take in, to let in to our whole being, so that we are embodied in the shifts. I want to begin by sharing with you why I took a break. Firstly, we took a break because we had recorded so many episodes that we wanted to give you guys some time to catch up. We have so many new listeners here. But also, I was preparing to return back to Peru to sit with a profound and challenging and probably the most advanced medicine I have ever come anywhere near or close to. Actually, not probably, by far the most advanced medicine I've ever worked with, called the Tree of Light. And the indigenous name for Tree of Light is called Noya Rao. Some of you may have already heard from season 1. I went in December 2023 and I sat with this medicine for the first time. And it was a threshold moment for me. There is quite literally my life before Tree of Light, and then there's my life after Tree of Light. And it was like I came out of that retreat having sat with the medicine 5 times, and then did a 2 months post-medicine dieta and a 6-month no sex, complete celibacy dieta post that retreat. And I came out of that, and it was like my entire life was on a new trajectory. And no exaggeration. It really was on a new trajectory. Well, I very ambitiously, and now that I have hindsight, maybe a little insanely, decided to go back exactly 1 year later, which is where I was in December 2024. And why I decided to take a break, not just because I was preparing to go to Peru, but I knew that I was going to have such huge shifts that I wanted to have enough space to integrate those shifts before I returned to you and shared with you the learnings that I have gained and the gifts of this second season of what's needed now, what's needed in the world, what's needed in our conversations and our self-inquiries. What are the hard questions that we need to be asking? What are the commitments and relationships that we need to be making? These are the things that I wanted time to just integrate so I could tap into a new field of where we are now and where we're moving. So I'm going to begin this season with sharing with you my experience of returning to Peru for the second time. Now, it was slightly different this time. The first time I went, firstly, I had never sat with Tree of Light before. And those of you who don't know what Noya Rao is, it is a tree in the Amazon that glows translucent light at night. If you have ever seen the movie Avatar, the tree in Avatar that glows translucent, they call it Iwa, that is based on the Noya Rao tree. And there's only about two, from what I have heard, only about two trees left in the entire Amazon rainforest. And they are highly protected. In fact, many indigenous tribes and many local people think that it's a myth that the Noya Rao trees even exist, because they're so protected by the Shipibo tribes. And so being invited to not only sit with this medicine, but being invited back to sit with it a second time, I count to be an extraordinary privilege and a real honor, and not something that I took remotely lightly. The indigenous literally walk for days on end in order to collect the sap from this tree in a way that it is protected and honored and done with integrity. The traditional and the I want to say the right way, but that sounds judgmental, but the way that the indigenous sit with the medicine is you drink it alongside ayahuasca. And the indigenous know Noya Rao as ayahuasca's teacher. So those of you who have sat with ayahuasca before, imagine now sitting with the teacher of ayahuasca, the great grandmother of ayahuasca. That's Noya Rao. So you drink Noya Rao first, and then 20 minutes later you have a big dose of ayahuasca, and the Noya Rao, the ayahuasca activates the Noya Rao, and it takes over the entire ceremony. And it's like being on ayahuasca on steroids. No joke, literally no exaggeration. It is like being on ayahuasca times a million. By far the deepest surrender of my existence. So it seemed like a courageous act to go back the second time round. And this time was slightly different. I was returning to Peru, this time with my love, my partner, who I met in Peru, sitting with Tree of Light the first time, Nick. And we met there a year earlier. We were complete strangers to each other. I had just come out of my marriage. He had just come out of his relationship. In fact, I ended my marriage the same week he ended his relationship. We were strangers to each other, and we ended up in mattresses next to each other in Peru as the only two people on this entire retreat drinking this medicine. And we became the best of friends. And 6 months later, we fell madly in love, and we're still together now. But we returned to Peru together this time as a couple. And so it was quite something to bring myself there as an individual, while simultaneously bringing my relationship into the ceremony with my partner there at the same time. And I had never done anything like that at that depth, at that level before. So it felt like a big moment. And wow, it was a humbling and profound experience. And if I'm very honest, I'm still integrating from it. But I think what I want to begin by saying is the power of Tree of Light, the power of this medicine, is its frequency. It is quite literally the frequency of the purest light. When the medicine kicks in, the only way I can describe it is you become in the presence of such a pure frequency of light that it's like sitting with God, but extremely extremely powerful. It's like the deepest love a mother could give, and sometimes brutal love. And the intention of the medicine, in my view, is to fill me with so much of this pure light, so that who I'm being and the resonance and the frequency that I am emanating and that I am embodying is in alignment and a match to the tree of light frequency. Now, it sounds all love and rainbows, but it absolutely is not that. Because in order to fill me with more and more light, and sometimes it felt physically painful, quite literally, like my cells were being stretched open and more and more and more in order to fill more light. It was like my entire grip and identification of the limitations of my physical matter had to be completely dissolved in order to let in more space, more light. And so it was physically painful. The amount of letting go was extreme. But of course, in order to fill me with more light, anything that is of a lower density and a lower frequency that is in my cellular structure and in my entire cellular structure has to be brought up and purged out. And that is, of course, the deep, deep work. And I think what I want to begin by saying is, what is so profound about working with this medicine that it has taught me about human beings is how much we store in the cellular structure of the matter of our bodies. And of course, the identification of our me, ourselves in the mind. And we store everything that we have experienced and we have absorbed through our parents and through our environment, through our generations, even our karmic history. We literally store like an entire efficient, energetic frequency memory bank. Memories, stories, but energetic frequencies of those stories, the energy of people that we've been around, the energy of our parents, the energy of our ancestors. We absorb it all and we carry it in our body and the cellular structure of the matter that we are. Because of course we're energy expressed as matter. And so we don't walk around every day living as if we're energy expressed in the form of matter. We just walk around every day thinking that's who we are. This is who we are. We can certainly talk about the fact that we're an energy manifested as matter, but when you really live it and you really become present experientially, that all of this stuff that is being you is energetic resonance. And of course, the blind spot is what is the frequency of that resonance? What are we carrying? We don't realize how much we've absorbed. What are we carrying that we've absorbed? The hate that we experienced in the face of our mother, or the terror that we experienced and absorbed in the presence of our father, the shame, the guilt, the anger that we absorbed from our environment, from our cultural heritage, from the world. We literally absorb everything and we carry it like it is just normal. And until it's brought to our attention and consciousness, it's not just as information, but energetically and on a resonance level, we don't know. And we don't know that we don't know it. It is just a blind spot. And of course, what we carry in who we're being, the resonance and the frequency of who we're being, is what gives us the shaping and the unfolding and the manifestation of our world, our 3D world, our 3D reality, which is kind of scary, isn't it? And I know that when you're hearing this, it's hard to let it in, because you can't turn around fast enough to look at what you're carrying when you're the one carrying it, and it's just you being you. But the way the world appears to us and the way we experience the world is given by the resonance and the frequency from who we're being, and who we're being is given by the resonance and the frequency of what we carry. And it's scary and a confronting realization, because when you look at our world today, one of the biggest blind spots of human beings, ontological blind spots, is that the external world out there is separate and independent from our internal world. We live every day as if we get up and the external world out there is separate and independent from our internal experience. And we just have to somehow work out how to live in it. And it is a blind spot. It is scientifically inaccurate. Quantum physicists and theorists today, and scientists today, are discovering that this is fact. That there is no external world out there separate and independent from the perception of the observer. The only world that appears is given by the perception of the observer. So the external is not independent and separate from who we're being. So when you look at the world today, it's not only terrifying, it's extremely confronting. The amount of anger, the amount of hate, the amount of judgment, the amount of blame, control, manipulation, survival, it's almost too unbearable to let in when you look at what's happening on a collective level. But then let's take it more into our personal and individual lives. And who are we being with our partners? Who are we being with our mother? Who are we being with our children? Who are we being with ourselves? And so it's a blind spot that somehow the way the world is unfolding is separate and independent from who we're being. And of course, who we're being, again, is a blind spot. We carry our history, our entire energetic and resonance and frequency history in the cellular structure of our body, of the matter of our body. And so the point of what I'm saying is that in order for the medicine to fill me with more light, boy, did it have to confront me with even more layers of frequency and resonance that I not only have carried, but I have identified with, that were of lower frequency: loneliness, shame, deep, deep hate and anger, terror. It was just so confronting. And you have to just surrender and experience it and then release it and purge it. And so in one of my ceremonies, which was a hard one, I became so present to this extraordinary loneliness that has sat at the root, right at the root. Like if you imagine a plant that goes right down deep in the earth and then you get to the tip of the root, that's how deep it felt. Like it had been a deep, empty loneliness that had been there at the root of me since I was a tiny little baby, being born into a world with a mother that was depressed and in a lot of pain. My father had just left her. She was a single mother now of 3. Being born into a world where there was just pain. My father had left. My siblings were heartbroken. And the depth of the loneliness that I experienced, and then that began to shape my survival mechanism and my identity. Wow, in this ceremony, the medicine literally took me there, and then held me there. I could not get away from it. And I was so present to being trapped in this loneliness inside this physical body, this dense. I was so present to the density and the heaviness and the thickness of this meat suit that we have called a body, and I couldn't get out of it. And of course, all I could do was surrender and be with the depth of the pain of this loneliness whilst being trapped, which is, of course, exactly how I felt as a little girl. I felt trapped in a childhood I couldn't get out of. I felt trapped in the pain and the emotions and the experiences that I was feeling so young. And then, of course, it makes perfect sense that then led me to patterns of behavior of doing whatever I can to escape drugs, alcohol, sex, money, ambition, anything to get me out from being with the depth of this pain. And of course, the healing part of this ceremony, which took every bit of surrender I had, was to surrender and not fight and not try and leave it, but just feel it and feel it and feel it and see how much my personality had been shaped on top of this. And yeah, then I went into ceremony 3, and it was like a full initiation, like hardcore, being confronted with every moment of greed that I had experienced or felt in my life, more, arrogance, betrayal of my own self. Oh, so painful. It felt like an endless confronting of everything that I had been carrying and absorbed and identified with that were of very, very low frequencies. And I just kept surrendering. I just kept saying, thank you. I surrender. Thank you. I'll face this. Thank you. And I could feel the amount of trust that it took for me to surrender that deeply. And I know it sounds strange. It just felt like love. It felt like so much love to choose to not run away, to choose to heal at that depth, to choose to let in that bigger shift. When I came out of those 2 ceremonies, I felt completely reborn. And then as I moved into the 4th ceremony, it made sense to me why I had had such a fundamental clearing. Because as I started to move through the 4th ceremony, and I had a lot of forgiveness of myself that had to happen because of all the years that I had betrayed myself in my marriage, my first marriage that's now over. And I had to forgive my own self for thinking so little of myself to have put up with patterns of behavior that had hurt me. And as I got to the point of forgiving my own self and my heart, the most beautiful thing happened. My throat opened, my mouth opened, and then this extraordinary sound started coming out, this song, this frequency started coming out of me that was pure light through my voice. And I don't know whether you know this, but I used to be a singer. In fact, when I was a little girl, all I ever wanted was to be a singer. And up until the age of 30, my profession was a singer. But I gave it up because I hated the industry, and I used to suffer from major panic attacks on stage, and I couldn't let my voice out. And so it was so extraordinary that after all this clearing in the ceremony 4, my voice came back. But this time, it didn't even sound anything like I had recognized in me. It was so pure and so love. It was just pure love. And it was healing for me to allow myself to sing again. And I heard very clearly the medicine saying, this is your mastery, this is your gift, to use sound and allow healing to happen for people. And so it felt very full circle for me to return back to my voice after all these years. And so, yeah, I mean, it really was the most life-changing experience that I have ever had. And since being home, the integration has been huge. I would say it's taken me almost the whole of this year to integrate the work that I did. And I think it's really important to remember that, if you go back and listen to the episode and watch the episode where I speak about the power of integration and how to navigate integration in a full embodiment way, that is the part where we actually change the structure and the organization of our 3D reality so that it's in alignment with who we're being now. It's alignment with the frequency and the identity from which we are seeing and coming from, or the relationship to identity from where we're seeing and coming from. And so, as powerful as the ceremony was, even more powerful has been coming home and having to be responsible for the reorganization of my reality. So I hope that has been powerful and useful to share with you, anybody who was interested in working with this powerful medicine. You can contact us and we can share that information with you. It really is for those of you who are experienced already in psychedelics. It is not for newbies or beginners. You need to be ready to be able to surrender in the deepest way of your life. And so if you're interested in it, do contact us and we can share with you the information of where to go and how to work with this medicine. So thank you so much. If you have found this useful and inspiring and helpful for you, then please stick around and watch the next episode. I have an amazing interview with a friend of mine, Trevor Boehm, who did 49 days in darkness. 49 days, that's 7 weeks. So hit the button below for the next episode and you are going to hear so much power and truth and depth in that. So thank you so much. And if you find these episodes useful, do hit subscribe, stick around so you can be the first to get every single episode that comes out and go back and watch the ones that we have released already. So thank you all so much for listening. This is the Infinite Potential of Being Human podcast. My name is Nicky Clinch and I am your host.